The 12 power of release is not one of my favorite 12 powers. I'm just going to be honest with you. Growing up in Unity, when we had a first Sunday of the month, we would have almost like a pop quiz of the 12 powers for that month. And so, if you're unfamiliar with the 12 powers, this was one of Charles Fillmore, the co founder of Unity. One of the earliest books that he wrote was on the 12 powers. And so, it's these 12 faculties that are found in our body. And so, release is one of them. And the power of release is all about being able to have or having the ability to release, remove, denounce, deny, say no, and let go. So, elimination, also known as release, is the ability to release, remove, denounce, deny, say no, and let go. And sometimes in Unity, I feel like we just want to jump right to the good ones, to the feel good ones, to the love, to the faith, to the imagination. And all of those things are wonderful and important, but if we do not release, sometimes we don't have space for all of those other things. And so I love that definition, to be able to release and to let go. And it is so much easier said than done. One of the pieces growing up in Unity that I felt like was lacking, and I didn't realize until I started my own ministerial journey to be able to look into what was serving me and what wasn't, is we didn't always, or I didn't always have the knowledge of how to ask a question of if I was ready to release something. That it was just kind of a given that if it didn't serve me and it wasn't working for me, I just had to release it without any tools, without any ability to ask a question to know how to do that. I knew that I was supposed to, but I didn't know how to get to the end goal. How many people have felt like you know what you're supposed to do, but you don't quite know how to get there? Yep. Okay. I'm not alone. Thank you. And so that's what happened with release for me. Growing up, I'd think, okay, I'm done with that. I'm moving on. I'm releasing that ability. I'm releasing that knowledge. I'm releasing that belief about myself that no longer serves me. And I wouldn't actually be done with it. And so it would keep coming up again and again and again, just looking a little different every time. So for me, one of the things that I have been working on for a while is my ability to truly forgive. That when there is an argument or friction in a relationship and I am hurt and wounded, that my stuff comes up. I am working on being able to truly forgive. Because what would happen even from the time when I was little is I forgive you, but I wouldn't actually. That I would remember and I would hold on to. And then when it came up again, because it comes up again if we're not done with it, that it would just keep building and building and building in me. Not being able to truly forgive is one of my things. And so I had an instance a few weeks ago um, at work. I work in mental health. I'm on the admin side of a community mental health clinic that serves kids. And so the work we do is sometimes heavy and tough. And luckily, I get to work with really wonderful people. But in a pandemic, that has been challenging at times. And so what had happened was I was engaging with a coworker and it felt like we were saying the same thing that we had said over and over and over and coming to the same result that didn't work. That I was caught in this isn't working. And we both just could say, because she's a therapist and I'm part of Unity, that we have done some of our own personal work to say, why isn't this working? And I could identify that I had been hurt by some things that this person had said, and she could identify that I had hurt her in some of those things. But we had never said it. We had never given ourselves the time, and we had never brought it to the surface to be seen and acknowledged for what it was, to be able to truly move past it and forgive. So I bet you there is something for you that feels like it keeps coming up and coming up. and coming up that you may be wanting to release. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But if there is, I invite you to start with the question: am I ready to release this? Sometimes we're not, and that's okay. If it's a no, we're going to know it in our body. So when I have a question about if I'm ready to release something, whether it be releasing my upset because that person stole the only spot that I could see in a massive parking lot, or something way bigger of feeling like I wasn't heard or valued in a place I care about, I can take a moment, connect with my breath, and ask the question: am I ready to release this? And the beauty of our bodies, this manifestation of a temple for God, is that we have the answers within our bodies. So in unity, sometimes we think we're a head person, that we're using our left brain, that we love the working through that imagination and creativity that comes from another one of our 12 powers. Or we're a heart person, that we just know that we ask a question and we know it on our heart. So part of the beauty of release is that there is a physical spot in our body for release, and it's in our lower abdomen, right close to that wisdom center as well. And so sometimes that gut reaction, people will say, is wisdom when we are ready to release. So when we tap in, when we ask the question, we could know from our head, from our heart, or from our gut if we're ready to release. And so that's part of being able to know what is ready to be released and what do we still have some work to do. From Power Up, which is another Paul Hasselbeck book that if you're into the 12 powers, I highly recommend be on your bookshelf. Paul writes, "There is a yes and there is a no. Both are equally as powerful. In order to say yes, we also must be able to say no. Please read that sentence again and allow it to internalize. In order to say yes, we must also be able to say no. Using the ability of elimination allows us to say no to the things that no longer serve us, including thoughts, beliefs, people, and stuff. We use the ability of elimination to say no, whether it's to something in consciousness or in the outer physical realm. We must be able to renounce, eliminate, and say no in order to change our minds and consciousness, as well as to be able to release useless stuff from our lives. Of course, the ability of judgment must be engaged to evaluate whether it's appropriate or not to say yes or no." So that is that gut reaction, being able to tap into the wisdom of our body and give ourselves the time to get a good answer. And sometimes we are going to get a no when we really want a yes. Sometimes we're ready to throw baby out with the bathwater and just move on. And that doesn't always work in the world of spirit. And the beauty of being able to ask the question if we get a no is we get to continue to grow and evolve and ask the question again. Because if we continue to ask the same question of our internal wisdom and the wisdom of spirit, when we are ready, we will get a different answer and be ready to go on the journey of release. So once we get that answer, how do we do it? How do we let go? I do not have a firm answer, but I have some thoughts and what's worked for me. Just as we are individual expressions of the Christ consciousness in this world, we release in different ways that work for us. Many people learn differently, and so therefore we release differently. How many people are visual learners that you need to see something in order to get it? Or auditory learners where you have to hear it in order to release it? And then some kinesthetic learners to be able to feel it and figure it and have that experience with your hands. There's many types of learning, but those are kind of the three traditional ways of learning. And in those same formats, what works best for us for intake tends to work best when we need to release something and let it go. So if you're a visual experiencer of the world, sometimes release looks like being able to write it down or draw it out or makes be able to have something that you can visually see. Sometimes visual learners, I'm a visual learner myself. I make, the list or I journal or I have something that I can see to be able to get rid of. Or auditory learners, sometimes it is physically talking out or expressing or singing or yelling, sometimes the things that we are ready to release. And kinesthetic, what's so interesting is there's so many physical ways of being able to release. For me, sometimes that's hard exercise, or I'll write something down and then rip it up into little pieces. We need to know how we release best, and we can take a moment to figure out how do we learn best to be able to release best. And it looks different for each one of us, and it continues to change as we change, which is beautiful. One of the gifts that I have found in this last year and experience of the pandemic is I have become a runner. I finished a half marathon, which was a goal many months ago, this past November. And what I learned through the process, thank you. What I learned through the process of being able to run and move my body was that was a necessary form of release that I had never tapped into. That when I get to move my body, the thoughts that are stuck up here tend to be able to get unstuck so I can say them when I need to say them and I can let them go when I'm ready to let them go. Some people, that is dance, that is art, that is writing. Sometimes that is just being able to know that whatever we are doing in order to learn best, we can release best. One of the activities that I learned for release when I was a child in Unity Sunday School that I still use is the toilet paper method. And what happened in Sunday school was we were talking about release and having the power of release be concentrated in the lower abdomen and the color is brown. There was inevitable potty humor. And my wise Sunday school teacher just decided to lean into that. And the activity that day was whatever we were ready to release. We got to take markers and write it out or draw it out on pieces of toilet paper. And then we paraded down the hall and we each had a moment to divinely flush what no longer served us. I would like to say this is one of the smartest things I have ever learned and continue to use on a daily basis. The rule is you cannot flush people. You can flush the parts of your relationship that you don't want with that person. But drawing or writing a person does not work. I tried it for my little sister. She is still here, just letting you know it didn't work. But I do think that it is something that feels sometimes so ridiculous that why in the world would I be so pent up with no way of releasing and I can do it with a piece of toilet paper? That I like to think sometimes we take our spirituality so seriously and we think that there is a right way and a wrong way. And when we've moved past being kids, we miss the wisdom of some of those things that were meaningful for us as children. The toilet paper method was one of those ways that I released as a kid, and it still serves me today. I invite you to try it one day whenever you're just feeling like there is something that needs to come out. Maybe the way that it happens that day is by writing it on some toilet paper and taking a moment to have that divine flush. It feels pretty darn good. But there are so many ways that it works, and so I invite you to try, to be able to try asking the question, to be able to try figuring out what works for you, and taking the time to know that release is part of our journey. I heard a story once. My mom is a hospice social worker, and so she comes home with all of these stories of people towards the end of their life, sometimes figuring out the pieces that were missing for them. And she told me this story about this couple that was both on hospice. And what I have seen in the world with either friends, grandparents, or stories on the news is sometimes when your person passes, the partner who's left behind passes pretty soon after. That when you have spent so much of your lives intertwined together, sometimes it feels like you can't keep going on, or you're just ready to release. And so the story that my mom told me was one of the people in this relationship was ready to die, had done their work and was ready to leave this plane, felt like their work was done. And the other person in this marriage was so scared that still felt like there was so much left to be done. And what happens, I believe, is when we have a wake up call that something shifts for us. We have an accident, we have an experience of illness, someone close to us passes. We sometimes have that jolt of the things I'm not doing, all of the unleft, undone, the yet to comes. And with hospice, sometimes you don't have that time. And so, what was so interesting is when my mom was telling me this story, she was telling me the piece that she was a part of in being able to help this person get clear about what is it you still need to do. And so much of it was being able to let go to make space for what needed to still be done. That sometimes we just instantly jump to where we want to go and what we want to do, and we don't make space for that. And so we just keep building and building and building without ever fully releasing. And so we know in unity that one of the most surefire ways of making space in our consciousness for what is meant for us to do and the stuff that is left for us to do is to be able to use the tool of denials. How many people are familiar with denials and affirmations? Awesome. We got a few. So unity has 5 basic unity principles, and as part of the 4th basic unity principles, denials and affirmations are part of the way that we use our power from God in this earthly plane. And so denial, the beautiful thing about denials is oftentimes they're coupled with affirmations, but many times they're forgotten. That affirmations are so much easier being able to say, I am strong, without denying some of our belief about not being strong. That when we miss the opportunity to use a denial, our affirmation is not nearly as strong. And so a denial is um, usually a very concise statement that is denying the power of a thought or belief or emotion that no longer serves us. And it's being able to say, not that it does not exist, not that it did not hurt, not that it did not impact us, but taking away the power that it has to be able to reallocate that power for something that does serve us. So, an example, um, I release the belief that I am not good enough. That would be my denial. That I don't go into the times that I didn't feel good enough or the emotions that come up when I believe I'm not good enough or where that belief came from, but I release the power believing that I am no longer good enough. And then I can say, I am enough, I have enough, I will always be enough. And so having a denial and having an affirmation on a similar thread is one of the strongest ways that we can use our power of the word in this world. So if you have, I know I see a few of you writing down, if you have a pen and paper close, write down something that you are maybe ready to release. Ask the question. So it may be a relationship that no longer serves you, or it may be an illness. It may be clutter in your life. It may be one of those beliefs that we picked up on our journey of life that just doesn't work with who we are today. So when you have your thing, I invite you to try writing a denial. Something that feels real and takes away the power, but does not negate any piece of who you are in that experience. And if you need some help, if you're like, Lily, I have no idea what you're talking about, you can either chat me or you can unmute and we can work through it together, because sometimes this is a skill building. This is a practice, and denials are way harder to figure out than affirmations. And if nothing's coming, I'm just glad you're here. And if you got something and you're completing the process, if I see your video, will you just give me a thumbs up? I want to make sure we give time. Cool. So, all of those things, whatever we came up with, whatever we are working on releasing, and our denial, how does that feel? Sometimes denials have a little bit of a bad rap, I think, that we've really taken the psychology denial and taken it. But I think the beauty of denials and affirmations, sometimes people see it in a binary of this is the positive and this is the negative, when denials and affirmations as spiritual tools are completely neutral. Denials are not taking away the bad, and affirmations are not affirming the good. They're just neutral statements for us being able to put meaning on in this world. So, with your denial, what are the feelings and the thoughts and the um, any of the stuff that has come up that you may want to flush, that you may want to get rid of? So, for me, my enoughness, when I think about, I'm ready to release uh, the thought that I am not enough. That's the self-doubt and the anxiety and the lack of sleep and the um, any of those things. All of those things are important to identify to be able to fully give the benefit of release. And so those are your flushable things. And so you'll know they'll come up. And so no denial would be complete without finishing with an affirmation. And the beauty of an affirmation is we call upon ancient knowing of the power of the I am. And so in the Bible, um, God is known as the I am that I am. And we know that I am is one of the most powerful statements, and whatever we tag on to that I am is an incredibly powerful thing that we are actively choosing. And I am is one of my favorite couples of words so much that I have a tattoo of I am on my Achilles. Because sometimes our I am is our Achilles heel. And I took that quite literally as a reminder to myself that whatever I hitch on the back of my I am will probably come true. I am not enough is an affirmation, but it is not the truth of who I am. I am enough is the truth of who I am. But both of those statements, because of the power of the I am that concretizes a belief, can be true. So what is your I am? What are you releasing to make space of? What are you putting behind your I am today? I am powerful. I am capable in all places. I am gentle with myself and others. I am a beacon of spiritual light. I am ready for the next step. If you are willing, I invite you to put that in the chat because I would love to be able to see your I ams. And I think we are stronger together when other people know our I am as well. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, on the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat box. And if you open that up, then you can type and other people can see your I am.
I have an iPad. I can't see how to do it in there, so I'll just tell you mine is I am who I am.
I
And that's
love
all that I
that.
am, quoting Popeye.
I love that. The wisdom of Popeye. If there's others who it's more powerful to say it aloud, I invite you to do so.
Hi, Lily. This is Sandra here. How are you?
Hi, Sanja. I am wonderful. How are you?
Fine, fine. I want to speak my I am wholeness.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. And enjoying the service. So glad I was here today.
I am so glad too. I'm going to read a few of the chats just because what is true for each of us tends to be true for all of us. I am inherently enough. I am bountiful and abundant. I am fully alive. I am wholeness. I am that I am and all that I am. I am powerful and resourceful. I am a strong, funny, and worthy person, and my person will reveal themselves. I am an expression of the divine. I am creative. Yes. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And yes, we are. Sometimes being able to say or I am feels kind of scary because it's really putting the responsibility on us of knowing that we are the expression of God in this world. And I am so grateful that we get to do this together. So, as your homework for the week, I invite you to ask the question, what are you ready to release? And when you find that thing or those things that are just no longer serving you for this week, for this month, for this gosh darn long year of 2020, for this lifetime, when you find the things you are ready to release, I invite you to find the way that works for you to release them. And I invite you to write your denial and write your affirmation. Go through this process. It is a powerful one, and it is better when we can do it together. So if there is a person who you interact with on a regular basis, when they say, "How are you?" I invite you to say, "I am bountiful and abundant." Just see what they say. Be able to spread your I am like glitter in this world, like light in this world. Because when we do our work of release, so much more light pours into the world from us. So we are going to just take a breath together. Let's do that, if you will. Breathing in and out. And so we're going to take a moment to just anchor that in with a little bit of quiet in a meditation. So, whatever space you need to take up that works for your body during this meditation, I invite you to do so. And if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your outer eyes and open your inner eyes. Just settle into this space. Settle into your body. Settle into the room you're in. Settle into the world that we are occupying. And I invite you to just find a rhythm of your breathing that works for you. And I invite you to just take a moment to do a quick little body scan, starting from your head down to your shoulders, down through your fingers, down your chest, into your belly and your hips, down to your knees, and down through your feet. Just connecting in with that body. If there is any place in your body where there is pain or tension or dis-ease, I invite you to just notice and love it. And I just invite you to keep breathing in this space. And in this space of quiet and deep knowing, I invite you to repeat these affirmations after me. I am ready to release what no longer serves me. And breathe that in. I am ready to ask the question, what I am ready to release. I am ready to receive an answer for what is mine to release. I am ready to actively release to make space in my life. I am ready to say yes to all the good that is coming my way. I am ready to show up and shine my light. And let us just take a moment with those affirmations. If one is coming up for you, know that it is meant for you as we just take a moment to breathe. And so when you are ready, I invite you to wiggle your toes if you're able. Wiggle your fingers if you're able. Knowing that you can come back to this space of quiet and the divine at any time. As we take one final breath and open our eyes. Thank you for having me today. It was a true joy to be with you on this Sunday morning.
It was a true joy to have you with us, to take us through that. It was wonderful. I kept thinking all throughout, Lily, that we had a discussion about, do you think people will worry that I look so young and that I'm 24 uh, and I don't think you need to worry about that. I think that's something that you can also take and say goodbye to, because uh, the the wisdom and the skill that you have given us today is magnificent and beautifully articulated. So yeah, look at all those people clapping. That's for you. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. All right. We have a little bit of time, so I would like to ask, does anybody have questions for Lily regarding anything that you've heard today? And it looks like your mother is the very first person to ask a question. So, Brenda, what is it that you unmute yourself and go ahead and ask?
Good morning. Actually, I was just clapping. I wasn't raising my hand.
Ah, okay. I thought you were going to give her some advice or, a little bit of
She's had
feedback.
plenty of that.
Do that when we're done, I guess. Great. Thanks for that. Anybody else? Just unmute yourself and start talking if you're so moved.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Good, Susan.
Tell us, Lily, the name of the Paul Hasselback thing. Was it Absolute Truth that Paul Hasselback does with the Daily Word?
The absolute word, and what
The Absolute Word.
I am going to put it in the chat, and then I will also send it to your wonderful team to have that URL as well.
Is that always, is that on the internet, or where do we access that?
It is. So what happens is Paul Hasselbeck takes the daily word for the day and then publishes it on his website and has it on his Facebook page, and then it is disseminated out into the world. So I will make sure that you guys have that link to be able to find it easily,
Thank you.
because I think it is a great tool.
Susan, if you follow Paul Hasselbeck, you just get it in your Facebook.
Good, thanks.
Great. That's a great, yeah, looks like Heather is, unmute yourself, Heather.
I have a question about, say we can't flush people, I get that. It would be very bad for the whole system. But how can you give some hints on how to release parts of relationships that aren't working?
Absolutely. So parts of relationships that aren't working. So what comes to me is asking the question again of what isn't working and getting clear on what that piece is. And so things that I know I have released relationships for are that I'm not valued in that relation. I don't feel valued in that relationship. I don't feel supported by that relationship. I don't feel affirmed by that relationship. And so getting clear on what is it I am missing from this relationship, or what am I longing for in this relationship, and getting clear on that, and then being able to release that opposite. You know, I release I release feeling like I don't deserve to be supported. I release knowing, or I release feeling connected to someone that does not affirm who I am. And being able to get clear about the pieces that feel like they're missing. And when you're ready, if you're ready, releasing that whole relationship. That it may not be the person, because the person will still be in this world. But I have released many relationships and just called them, I released my relationship with this person because it no longer serves me. And just being able to ask the question and get clear so that we're using the words that we really mean. And then being able to, when we're ready, release the relationship because we know that there are supportive and wonderful people who are ready to be in relationship with you. Great question.
Anybody else? Anybody have anything? Greg, is to have something more? No.
So
Any-
Lily, I really like that what you said there. And I took a class on Emily Cady's book one time, and the denial, I just love the idea that the denial opens up a space for the affirmation.
It is powerful, so many times the visual when we're talking about release is bringing things into our home, that we are a home, and the things that we are bringing in are thoughts and ideas. And at some point in time, we are going to hit capacity, and we just need to make space and clear out and declutter and know what is important to us to stick around. And so absolutely, the making space is so important, and sometimes we just forget about it, and it's so important to have that reminder.
And the funny part about it is my passion in life is I'm always organizing drawers, right? I'm always reorganizing and organizing, but it is a meditation for me, because then during that process, I'm able to let go of things.
Absolutely, that it unsticks and it makes space. Amen.
Okay,
Lily,
I have,
can you talk
I have-
about the difference? Go ahead.
No, you go, Doug, and then Greg next.
okay.
Lily, could you speak to how you think about release compared to the concept of forgiveness we find in the Course in Miracles?
Absolutely. So I think release is a step in forgiveness. I think forgiveness is more multidimensional than release. And I feel like they are in it together. That I feel like if we're not ready to release, then we are not always ready to forgive. But we can say we forgive without release, but they are in a push and pull relationship together. And so for me, there is a need to release. Sometimes there's not as frequent of a need to forgive on a surface level, but they're both deep needs that take personal responsibility. And so I see them as partners in this work. Sometimes they're easier, but I do think release is an act of forgiveness for us. Being able to release what no longer serves us is an act of self-forgiveness at times. And I feel like, on the other side of that, release or forgiveness is an act of release as well. So that's kind of my understanding, not specifically with, oh, I just lost the name. What book did you specifically ask with forgiveness, Doug? Oh, Course in Miracles. That, is a little outside of my wheelhouse for a specific answer, but that's how I see those two concepts.